So, a man whose last name was Gronlund, G-R-O-N, and this is point 2 today. This is our second type of objective. His last name is Gronlund, G-R-O-N-L-U-N-D, articulated or explained or discovered or whatever we want to say, what he called two-tiered objectives. Two is the word two, dash, tiered, T-I-E-R-E-D, two-tiered. We have tiers. We have one level and a second level. Okay, and so he did this because many times we want more than just that bare basic knowledge. We're aiming for more than that. So in level 1, we would have the general instructional objective that we're trying to reach. So you can put level 1 and then some notes. I just have like bullet points next to them. These are going to be general instructional objectives, not as specific, general. Because many times we have goals that can't be observed as actions. So the verbs that we're going to see there are going to be general type of verbs. And here's some examples. Know. I want the students to know something. Understand. I want them to understand something. Demonstrate. Evaluates. He relates. Writes. Applies. Comprehends. So these are general words. They're not specific actions. How do you demonstrate that you know something? I can't, stick probes in your head. Okay? So we have these general objectives. Many times there are things that we're aiming for cannot be observed as actions. We use these general type of verbs: know, understand, demonstrates, evaluates, relates. But yet they need to be specific enough to guide the instruction. I can't say, I want my students to understand the geography of Alaska. Okay? That's way too broad. That doesn't guide my instruction. But if I said, I want the students to understand why Fairbanks became a large city in central, would it be central? In central Alaska, 4 hours driving, so 250 miles away from the coast, that's going to guide my instruction, isn't it? I want them to understand why Fairbanks grew as a city. Understand the geographical, influences on the size of Fairbanks' population. So it's specific enough to guide my instruction, but I can't really say that they understand it I can't measure understanding. I could say he kind of understands it, but now I don't know how much. So what level of proficiency is his understanding? He understands it to a 75% level or an 80% level, or I think he only understands it halfway. See, understanding, the amount of somebody's understanding is really hard to put our grasp on. Okay? So you see, so it's general. That's the first tier. That's going to guide my instruction. The second tier, level 2, is a specific learning outcome. A specific learning outcome. And so then this is a specific quote-unquote behavior that is accepted. I accept this behavior as evidence of attainment. So at level 2, I decide on something specific and I say, okay, this thing I believe so strongly in this exercise that I'm going to expect them to do that it will tell me that they understand, that I will accept it as evidence. What I'm allowing is that somebody could do a good job on this exercise and really not have a good understanding. That has happened. Okay? You teach something, you get a lot of positive feedback, everybody does their little thing, you think they understand, you go 2 lessons down the road and then you discover, they don't really understand. Right? Can that happen? It's happened to you. You sat there, I'm right with them, I understand them. You think you fully understand. 2 lessons later, he's expecting you to, he's building off of something he talked about 2 periods before, and now you realize that your understanding there was faulty, even though at the time you thought it was correct. And if there was a measurement in place, you might have performed the measurement to an acceptable level of proficiency, but because it's not, it is just loosely tied to what the objective was, there's the possibility that it's not really showing your understanding. Do you understand that? Okay, so I want the students to understand something, okay, and I've got it specific enough so that it guides what I say. I then think of or create some type of exercise that they have to accomplish, some behavior that is accepted, that I will accept as evidence that they do understand it, still while scientifically knowing that there's a possibility that they won't. But as an experienced teacher, I'm going to say this typically does show understanding. In 99% of the cases, if they do well on this, they do understand. Okay, so let me give you an example of this in still very general terms. Level 1. This is an example. So level 1 understands the meaning of a concept. See, very general terms. But that's the type of wording. Okay? Student understands the meaning of a concept. Level 2, and level 2 is a specific behavior that I'm going to accept as evidence of understanding the meaning of concept. Level 2 might be something like this. Explains it in his own words. Explains in own words. Or identifies examples. Or creates examples. And these are just some examples. There would be other things. And here's a fourth one. Distinguishes between similar concepts. So now distinguishing I would think would measure it much better than identifying. Right? Because identifying, they could get lucky. But if I put something there that's similar but not the same and they can distinguish it, then that's a better measure. But it's not a foolproof measure. I guess what I'm saying is, if somebody writes out all 50 states, I can say they know all 50 states unless they're cheating. Okay? But cheating is not an acceptable condition of accomplishment. Going back to the performance objective, right? So hopefully you can understand a little bit of the difference between these. We almost always, once we're into middle school ages, fifth, and I'm not saying we never do it beforehand, but it comes up way more frequently, or much more frequently, 5th grade and beyond, want to be teaching more than just measurable knowledge. Okay? Understanding is something we really want, because you have to have that, right? Comprehension. You have to have comprehension before you can do application and all of that. So that's something we really want, and it's really hard to measure it, to say, yeah, they do understand. I don't have any doubt that they understand. Okay? I can say I don't have any doubt that they could write the 50 states out. But that they understand something is different. So, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't give ourselves objectives, because objectives really help us when we walk into the classroom. If I know today I'm going to teach this, I'm aiming toward that. As it is right now, I'm aiming toward something that we're going to get to in the last 10 minutes here. I'm aiming toward something. I want you to understand something. This is foundational, actually, to that. Okay? If I just come to the classroom and it's like, well, here we go, whatever's next, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going, I don't know, have I really accomplished anything when I get done? Have you learned anything, or have I taught anything? And that comes to later on. If you don't learn anything, I haven't taught anything, so make sure you learn it. So, but we want to have objectives because it helps the teacher tremendously to have that, this is where I'm going, this is what I'm trying to accomplish, this is what I want them to take away from this class period. Okay? But when we have things beyond general knowledge, it's hard. Using just the performance objective is hard to do. If that's our only tool to write out or think through an objective, it's very difficult to use. So we have a two-tiered objective. And those help us with that, help us understand that in a specific way. And what you will want to try to do, or what I'm going to ask you to do, is to be able to compare or contrast those two different types of objectives. So, these objectives, the ideas of objectives, helps us align our goals, instruction, and assessment in a classroom.